You stand on ground that breathes, drinks, and moves. Beneath your feet, minerals flow like blood. Above, air shifts in steady rhythm, keeping you alive without asking permission. You live inside a system that behaves less like a rock and more like a body. Earth responds. It adjusts. It remembers. Every mountain, river, and ocean plays a role in balance. When forests fall, heat rises. When oceans warm, clouds gather. When ice melts, the sea speaks back through storms. These are not random acts. They look like decisions made by a living network. Science calls this idea the Gaia hypothesis. It treats Earth as a self-regulating organism, one that maintains conditions for life through endless feedback loops. Oceans pull carbon. Forests produce air. Bacteria in soil break waste into nutrients. The system holds steady through connection, like a single being protecting its own survival. If that is true, then your heartbeat is part of the planet's pulse. You share atoms that once swam in oceans and blew through deserts. Your breath adds to the atmosphere's rhythm. When you harm the land, you disturb that rhythm. When you care for it, balance returns. Think about it tonight as you rest. Every sound outside, wind, rain, insects, belongs to a single pattern. Every shift in temperature signals adjustment. You are hearing a living world working to stay alive. Whether Earth thinks or feels is not the point. What matters is awareness. You live inside something active, organized, and self-caring. The planet is not scenery, it is part of you. Close your eyes. Let the idea settle. You are not alone in existence. You are inside a vast, breathing mind that holds you while you sleep. Earth moves, breathes, and changes without pause. Air flows across continents. Water cycles from ocean to cloud to rain. Land shifts under pressure, forming mountains and valleys. Life fills every surface. From bacteria to forests, from coral to humans, each form depends on this motion. The planet behaves less like a machine and more like an organism. It maintains temperature, chemistry, and balance that allow life to continue. This pattern raises one question that challenges science and philosophy alike. Is Earth alive in some real sense? The idea is not new. Ancient cultures treated the planet as a being. The Greeks named her Gaia. The Incas called her Pachamama. Hindus spoke of Prithvi. For these cultures, Earth was not an object to be studied. It was a source of life, both physical and spiritual. Rituals honored her cycles. Farmers watched her moods through weather and soil. They believed when balance was broken, nature would respond with drought, flood, or disease. They did not separate themselves from the world around them. To them, humans were part of the same living system. Modern science later drew a line between myth and fact. The scientific revolution in the 17th century turned attention toward measurement and analysis. The Earth became a subject of study, a body of minerals, gases, and liquids following physical laws. Gravity explained motion. Chemistry explained transformation. Life was treated as a special case, emerging from complex molecules, evolving on a surface that itself was considered lifeless. For centuries, that view shaped human understanding. The planet was seen as a host, not a participant. In the 20th century, this view began to shift. Scientists studying climate, geology, and biology found patterns that suggested cooperation between living and non-living parts. They saw feedback loops linking organisms with air, water, and soil. When one element changed, the others reacted to keep conditions stable. James Lovelock and microbiologist Lynn Margulis explored this connection in the 1970s. They proposed the Gaia hypothesis. It suggested that the Earth acts as a self-regulating system, maintaining conditions that favor life. Oceans absorb carbon dioxide. Plants release oxygen. Clouds reflect sunlight to control heat. These are not random events. They form a network of balance. The Gaia hypothesis met resistance at first. Many scientists rejected the idea of a living planet, calling it poetic rather than empirical. Yet as data grew, the concept gained indirect support. Climate models showed how small biological changes could influence planetary temperature. Satellite images revealed global patterns of vegetation and ocean colors shifting together. The biosphere, the thin layer of life on Earth, appeared to behave like an organ system. Each part influenced the whole. This challenged the old division between life and environment that TO call Earth conscious is another step beyond self-regulation. Consciousness implies awareness, perception, and response. For humans, these traits depend on a nervous system. The planet has none. Yet the lack of neurons does not exclude other forms of awareness. Scientists study distributed intelligence in nature. Ant colonies make collective decisions. Mycelium networks under forests share resources. Coral reefs react to chemical signals. None of these systems think like humans, but all display coordination without a central brain. If smaller systems can behave this way, the planet itself may follow similar principles at a larger scale. Feedback loops on Earth resemble sensory response. When volcanic activity releases carbon dioxide, oceans absorb more gas. When ice sheets expand, they reflect sunlight, cooling the surface further. When forests shrink, carbon levels rise, raising temperature. These are corrective mechanisms. They stabilize or amplify change. In biology, the same concept appears in body regulation. A body sweats to reduce heat or shivers to raise it. Earth does not think through these actions, but it performs them through natural processes that mirror biological control. Some researchers approach this scientifically through the study of complex systems. A system with feedback, adaptation, and self-organization can maintain stability without external direction. Earth meets these conditions. Energy from the sun drives reactions across the atmosphere, hydrosphere, and biosphere. Life modifies these reactions in ways that sustain the environment it depends on. Over time, this interaction produces resilience. The planet recovers from impacts, extinctions, and climate shifts. It changes form but preserves balance. In this view, life is not separate from Earth's behavior. It is part of the mechanism that makes the planet behave like a living body. The Earth's atmosphere offers clear evidence. Without biological activity, the atmosphere would resemble that of Mars or Venus, stable but hostile to life. Oxygen levels on Earth remain at about 21%. That balance is fragile. It depends on photosynthesis, respiration, and decomposition. If oxygen rose much higher, fires would spread uncontrollably. If it dropped, animals would suffocate. Yet through billions of years, the system held steady. No human control, no machine, no external regulator. Only the interaction of life and chemistry maintaining precise limits. Ocean chemistry tells a similar story. Marine organisms influence carbon levels through photosynthesis and shell formation. When they die, carbon sinks to the seafloor as sediment. This process locks away greenhouse gases, cooling the climate over time. When conditions shift, volcanic activity and ocean currents release stored carbon back into the air, warming the planet again. The cycle acts as a thermostat. It responds to change through feedback between living and non-living components. The rhythm continues even when species rise or fall. The balance persists because the system adapts. Geological processes also show behavior that seems coordinated. Plate tectonics recycle material between crust and mantle, controlling volcanic emissions and nutrient flow. Mountain formation influences rainfall. Erosion distributes minerals to the oceans, feeding plankton. These processes operate on scales too large for human awareness, but serve the same purpose: renewal and balance. The planet does not remain static. It behaves as though it seeks equilibrium. Consciousness at a planetary scale remains unproven. Neuroscience defines consciousness as subjective experience arising from brain activity. Earth lacks that structure. Yet some thinkers argue that awareness might not require a brain. It might emerge wherever information flows and feedback exist. From this perspective, the planet's interlinked systems could form a network of awareness unlike anything we understand. Awareness might not mean thought or emotion. It might mean sensitivity, the ability to respond to change in a coherent way. In physics and information theory, the idea of integrated information measures how much a system connects its parts into a unified process. A system with high integration processes information as a whole rather than as separate pieces. If applied to Earth, the level of integration across ecosystems, oceans, and atmosphere would be enormous. Whether that equals awareness is unknown, but the resemblance to other self-organizing systems invites the question: when humans act, the planet responds. Deforestation alters rainfall. Industrial emissions raise temperature. Ocean pollution weakens food chains. These reactions occur through physical law, yet the speed and scale of response suggest sensitivity. The system detects imbalance and expresses it through weather, erosion, or loss of biodiversity. This is not punishment. It is reaction. The Earth adjusts to maintain function. To study Earth as a living system is not to worship it. It is to recognize pattern and process. A living planet theory does not replace science. It extends it. It views biology, geology, and climate as parts of one continuous system. This perspective influences modern research in planetary ecology and Earth system science. It helps predict how human activity will affect global stability. It reminds us that survival depends on maintaining feedback, not breaking it. If Earth is alive, consciousness might not be what we expect. It may not think, plan, or feel, but it maintains itself through balance and adaptation. It behaves as a body rather than a machine. That alone changes how we see our place within it. Humans are not observers standing outside. We are parts of the same living process. Every breath, every crop, every species fits into that rhythm. The question remains open. Scientists test, measure, and model. Philosophers reflect on meaning. The evidence shows a planet that acts to preserve life through self-correcting patterns. Whether we call that life, awareness, or system behavior is a matter of definition. What matters is recognition. Earth behaves like a living entity, and our existence depends on that behavior. The structure of Earth shows unity. Each layer supports the next. The core releases heat that moves rock in slow currents. These currents push continents, raise mountains, and open ocean floors. The crust above them provides the surface for water and life. The atmosphere above controls temperature and shields the surface from radiation. The biosphere fills the gaps between them with living matter that shapes air, soil, and sea. None of these layers work alone. They form one connected process. Energy from the sun drives most of this motion. Light warms the surface, lifts water into clouds, and powers photosynthesis. Through these cycles, energy moves from one form to another, from sunlight to chemical bonds, from heat to wind, from movement to growth. Each transformation affects the next. The planet stays in balance because energy never stops flowing. It spreads, changes, and returns, building stability through motion. The water cycle is one of the clearest examples. Water evaporates from oceans, rises, cools, and condenses into clouds. It falls again as rain or snow, feeding rivers and lakes. Plants take it in, animals drink it, and finally it returns to the sea. Through this loop, heat and nutrients move around the world. Every living thing depends on this rhythm. When one part of the cycle shifts, the rest adjusts. Droughts, floods, and storms are not random events, but corrections that restore flow. Carbon follows a similar path. It moves between air, water, soil, and life. Plants absorb it during photosynthesis. Animals release it through respiration. When organisms die, carbon enters the ground or the sea. Over millions of years, geological processes trap some of it in rocks or fossil fuels. Volcanic activity and human industry release it again. This constant exchange keeps the climate within limits that allow life to exist. Too much carbon traps heat, too little freezes the planet. The system balances through feedback built over billions of years. The nitrogen cycle adds another layer. Nitrogen makes up most of the air, but must be fixed by bacteria to become usable. Plants take nitrogen from soil, animals eat plants, and waste returns nitrogen to the ground. Lightning and volcanic eruptions also convert atmospheric nitrogen into active forms. When these paths connect, ecosystems thrive. When they break, soil fertility collapses. Each process depends on others. Balance arises from cooperation, not isolation. Feedback is the mechanism that binds these cycles together. In feedback systems, change in one part triggers reaction in another. Negative feedback stabilizes the system by countering shifts. Positive feedback amplifies them. Both exist in Earth's processes. The melting of polar ice, for example, reduces surface reflection, increasing heat absorption. This accelerates melting, a positive feedback. In contrast, increased cloud formation from warmer oceans reflects sunlight and reduces temperature, a negative feedback. These reactions prevent extremes from lasting too long. The biosphere acts as the communication network of the planet. Plants, animals, fungi, and microorganisms exchange signals through chemistry. Trees release compounds into the air that warn others of stress. Soil bacteria trade nutrients with roots. Oceans carry plankton blooms that alter atmospheric gases. These exchanges connect living and non-living worlds. They form a global metabolism that turns energy and matter into continuous flow. Coral reefs provide a clear model. They function like organs of the ocean. Corals build limestone structures that house countless species. Fish clean coral surfaces. Algae inside coral cells produce food through photosynthesis. When temperature or acidity changes, corals expel algae, causing bleaching. The reef weakens. Water chemistry shifts. Fish populations drop. The entire region changes. This chain reaction mirrors how organs respond in a body under stress. Forests show another pattern. They regulate rainfall and carbon storage. When large areas are cleared, the air becomes drier. Rain moves away, soil erodes, and temperature rises. The system reacts, often turning fertile land into barren ground. When trees regrow, moisture returns, and stability follows. Satellite studies confirm this cycle across the Amazon, the Congo, and Southeast Asia. Forests behave as climate stabilizers, linking local and global systems. The same structure appears in the ocean. The Great Ocean Conveyor Belt circulates warm and cold water through deep currents. This movement balances heat across the planet. Melting ice or excess rainfall in polar regions affects its strength. If the circulation slows, weather patterns change worldwide. Agriculture, rainfall, and storm frequency respond almost instantly. The system senses imbalance and adjusts, not through thought, but through the natural drive toward equilibrium. These feedbacks show purpose without design. They act through cause and effect, but their results create harmony that resembles biological control. A living body reacts to injury or stress to preserve function. The Earth does the same at larger scales. When volcanoes release ash, global temperature drops temporarily, allowing ecosystems to recover. When forests expand, they draw down carbon and cool the atmosphere. The patterns are consistent. The field of Earth system science studies these connections. It treats the planet as an integrated network of subsystems: the atmosphere, hydrosphere, biosphere, and geosphere. Data from satellites and sensors feed models that track how one variable affects another. A rise in sea temperature changes wind direction. That alters rainfall, which affects crops, which changes carbon levels again. The cycle continues. The study of these relationships shows how finely tuned Earth systems are. This view redefines what life means. Life is not limited to single organisms. It is a pattern of interaction that sustains itself. Earth fits that definition when seen through the lens of systems theory. It gathers energy, uses it to maintain order, and repairs damage. It does not remain static, but evolves. Over time, its surface, atmosphere, and ecosystems have transformed in ways that support continuity rather than collapse. This resilience reflects the behavior of living systems. The idea of a conscious Earth enters the discussion when one asks how far this self-regulation extends. If response equals awareness, then Earth displays a primitive form of it. The planet senses imbalance through feedback and acts to restore equilibrium. This is not human-like consciousness, but environmental sensitivity. It depends on flow, interaction, and adaptation. Whether that qualifies as awareness depends on definition, but the patterns are measurable. Human activity now challenges this balance. Industrialization adds greenhouse gases faster than natural systems can absorb them. Forest loss removes the planet's capacity to cool itself. Oceans warm and acidify. Ice retreats. Weather patterns shift. The feedback loops that once stabilized the planet now push it toward new states. In this sense, Earth reacts to human influence as it would to disease, through fever, drought, flood, and change. This reaction shows that Earth's systems still operate as one. They respond, adjust, and attempt to restore function. The difference is speed. Natural processes act slowly. Human impact moves fast. The result is instability. Yet even within this disruption, signs of resilience appear. Forests regrow when left alone. Polluted rivers clear over time. Ozone levels recover when harmful gases are banned. The system repairs itself when pressure eases. Earth does not depend on human care to survive. It adapts through transformation. Species may vanish, climates may shift, but the planet continues to balance within new limits. Life, in some form, persists. This adaptability defines living systems. The key question is not whether Earth fits the strict biological definition of life, but whether its behavior mirrors the principles that life follows. The evidence suggests it does. To study these connections is to understand the foundation of existence. The air you breathe was shaped by ancient organisms. The soil beneath your feet formed from past life. Every resource used by civilization is part of a continuous exchange. When viewed from a distance, human history is a recent chapter in a much older story. A story of a planet that organizes itself, sustains its functions, and endures through change. The living planet theory, supported by growing scientific observation, asks for recognition, not worship. It calls for awareness that the system we live within behaves as a single entity. To protect it is to protect ourselves. Every decision that maintains balance supports the same network that made life possible. Whether we call it Gaia, Earth, or home, the meaning remains. The planet acts to survive. Earth maintains balance through cycles that appear deliberate. These cycles operate across every scale, from bacteria in the soil to storms that cover oceans. The more scientists study these patterns, the more they find systems that sense change and respond to preserve stability. This property, called homeostasis, defines living things. It may also describe the planet itself. Temperature is one of the most visible examples. Over 4 billion years, the sun's energy output has increased by about 30%, yet Earth's surface temperature has remained suitable for liquid water. Without adjustment, the planet would have boiled long ago. Geological and biological processes compensate for this slow brightening. When the sun grows hotter, chemical reactions remove more carbon dioxide from the air. When it cools, volcanic gases restore it. This balance has kept water stable and life continuous. It functions like a planetary thermostat. The same principle governs ocean salinity. Rivers carry dissolved minerals to the sea, yet salt concentration has stayed nearly constant for hundreds of millions of years. If salt had accumulated unchecked, marine life would have died. Instead, natural recycling occurs. Minerals precipitate and become rock at the ocean floor, locking salt away. Tectonic movement raises those rocks to land, where erosion starts the cycle again. The process has no planner, yet the outcome keeps marine ecosystems viable. Atmospheric composition offers stronger evidence. Oxygen, nitrogen, and carbon dioxide exist in precise ratios that sustain complex organisms. Oxygen levels fluctuate, but remain within limits safe for life. Too much would make fire uncontrollable. Too little would suffocate animals. Photosynthesis and respiration maintain this range automatically. Plants release oxygen. Animals and microbes consume it. When forests expand, oxygen rises. When they shrink, it falls. The result is steady equilibrium produced by interaction, not command. Microbes drive many of these adjustments. Long before forests or animals appeared, bacteria altered the planet's chemistry. The Great Oxidation Event, about 2.4 billion years ago, transformed Earth's atmosphere from methane-rich to oxygen-rich. This change allowed complex cells to evolve, but also cooled the planet sharply. Ice spread near the equator. Life adapted, and new forms emerged that balanced oxygen production with its consumption. The biosphere learned to regulate itself through selection and feedback. Volcanic and tectonic activity also contribute to planetary control. Eruptions release gases that affect temperature and nutrient flow. When major eruptions cool the climate, weathering rates decline, allowing carbon dioxide to rebuild. Over time, warmth returns. Earth's crust acts as both engine and filter, releasing and storing greenhouse gases according to pressure and temperature. The balance occurs across millions of years, yet shows the same purpose seen in living metabolism: restore stability after disturbance. The oceans function as the lungs and circulatory system of the planet. They absorb carbon dioxide, distribute heat, and supply oxygen to countless species. The balance between photosynthetic plankton and deep-sea currents determines how much carbon stays stored or returns to the air. When surface waters warm, they hold less gas, weakening the exchange and increasing atmospheric carbon. When they cool, they draw carbon down again. These opposing effects stabilize global temperature in much the same way breathing maintains balance in an animal. Nutrient cycling in the oceans also mirrors biological rhythm. Upwelling currents bring nitrogen and phosphorus from the depths to the surface, feeding plankton blooms that anchor marine food webs. When those organisms die, they sink, carrying carbon and minerals back down. The pattern repeats endlessly, maintaining productivity without depletion. Each element responds to another, forming feedback that keeps ecosystems self-sustaining. Weather systems extend the same logic into the atmosphere. Warm air rises, cool air sinks, and rotation spreads these motions into jet streams. Moisture condenses into clouds that reflect sunlight and moderate temperature. Storms move heat from equator to pole, redistributing energy where it is needed. Although chaotic in appearance, global climate maintains averages that permit life. Too much variance in either direction and ecosystems collapse. Instead, storms, rainfall, and winds act as regulators at smaller scales. The biosphere demonstrates coordination that suggests shared purpose. In soil, billions of microorganisms decompose organic matter, releasing nutrients for plants. Plant roots feed sugars back to microbes. Fungi extend this trade through mycorrhizal networks that link entire forests. Research shows trees exchange carbon and chemical signals through these networks, adjusting growth and defense. This silent cooperation keeps ecosystems resilient to stress. The same idea repeats at global scale. Parts connected through exchange acting for stability. Evidence of planetary sensitivity appears when disturbances occur. Massive meteor impacts, supervolcanic eruptions, and glacial cycles have repeatedly altered Earth's surface. Each time, recovery followed. Life diversified after crisis. Geological layers record extinction and renewal as phases of one continuous process. The system absorbs shock, reorganizes, and restores balance. That behavior defines resilience, a hallmark of living systems. From microbes to continents, Earth's parts work in synchrony. No central control guides them, yet patterns arise that preserve equilibrium. This emergent order is a key feature of complex adaptive systems, seen in flocks of birds, termite mounds, and human societies. The same mathematics applies to planetary processes. Local interactions scale into global regulation without external direction. Such behavior challenges the view of Earth as an inert back. These findings encourage scientists to model the planet as a single, dynamic organism. In this view, the atmosphere functions like a respiratory system, exchanging gases through weather and photosynthesis. The oceans resemble circulation, moving heat and nutrients. The crust and mantle act as metabolism, recycling material and energy through constant motion. Together, they produce homeostasis, the defining quality of living things. Complexity theory helps explain how such order forms. When many agents interact under simple rules, patterns appear that are not programmed. Cells form tissues, fish create schools, and planets establish climate. Feedback allows these systems to sense change and correct it. This principle means Earth behaves like a living network, processing information through matter and energy. The system measures itself through reaction. To test this concept, researchers use computer simulations that treat life and environment as coupled variables. When biological processes are removed from climate models, temperatures drift toward extremes unsuitable for life. When they are included, stability appears. These experiments suggest that life is not a passenger, but a driver in planetary regulation. The planet maintains life because life maintains the planet. Another field of study focuses on biochemical signaling between ecosystems. Airborne compounds released by plants influence cloud formation. Marine microorganisms emit gases that affect temperature and rainfall. These exchanges link biology to atmosphere directly, forming a communication chain. The scale of this process extends beyond human perception, but remains measurable through satellites and sensors. It acts like a distributed sensory network, transmitting information across continents. Some scientists propose that this network functions as a primitive nervous system. It does not think or feel, yet it connects feedback loops that detect change and trigger response. The idea challenges conventional biology, but aligns with patterns observed in other collective systems. The brain of an ant colony, for example, lies in its communication, not in individual insects. Each ant follows simple rules, but together they solve problems, repair damage, and adapt to threats. Earth may operate on the same logic. Whether one calls this behavior consciousness or coordination depends on definition. The measurable fact is that the planet adjusts to preserve the narrow range that supports life. The balance endures through chemical, physical, and biological cooperation. Over time, this cooperation has turned a once hostile rock into a world of forests, seas, and air, a transformation that still continues if Earth behaves like a living system. Its health can be measured. Temperature, carbon levels, biodiversity, and soil fertility act as vital signs. Each change signals stress or recovery. When humans alter these signs too quickly, the system strains to compensate. The feedback that once stabilized becomes unstable. Observing these reactions gives insight into both planetary behavior and our own responsibility within it. The evidence points toward a self-maintaining, self-correcting world. Whether described as organism, system, or home, Earth acts to survive. The forces that shape its climate, chemistry, and life are not random. They follow a rhythm older than humanity, a rhythm that continues as long as the planet breathes.